Hello, welcome to SBL Mixing. My name is Daniel Jason Booth. Today what we're going to do is look at Waves BB Tubes, which stands for Beauty and the Beast, which I alluded to a little bit in my Little Tube review, which you can watch here or here, wherever it may appear. Essentially what Little Tube was a bit of an introduction to BB Tubes. So let's bring that up and have a bit of a play. Pretty simple interface. Basically, it's 2 stages of saturation. So this one is feeding in series into that. Let's have a play with this just on the bass guitar, and then I'll go through some of the features of it. It's definitely got a analog vibe to it, which I really dig. And just like the Little Tube, it's got quite a few sweet spots in terms of tones. I think I like that on. Got a really nice 3D quality to it that is indicative of analog equipment, and this is definitely getting a lot closer to it. So what is it? What have we got going on here, and how do we get the most out of it? The beauty part is predominantly more even harmonics. It's adding warmth. It's also adding a bunch of bottom end when you drive it quite hard, as well as kind of removing some frequencies at the same time. And then the Beast is if you're going for a more aggressive sound, more attitude. The Type A and Type B only pertains to the Beast, which just gives you 2 different profiles, 2 different flavors to play around with in terms of attitude. The Transformer is adding some harmonics, and you can turn it off to add a cleaner sound. It's not adding noise as such as previous Waves plugins have done. Most notably SSL channel strip and stuff like that. So that's great. Again, it's just giving you 2 different flavors. When you turn it off, you're getting full bandwidth. And when you turn it on, it's putting in a high pass at about 20. Experiment with that. It's just about flavors. Sensitivity is pretty self-explanatory. It is the level going into the plugin, and it's something that you've got to play with and basically find the sweet spot. But the little light indicator here, if I play it, you'll see is like a traffic light. And my understanding is if you're tickling the yellow, then you're pretty good. So the sensitivity control is what I would say is one of the crucial ones, because it's setting that level pre-distortion or harmonics unit, and that's going to affect the sound. So the bass relief is an interesting one. So what it's doing is it's pulling out low frequencies using a low shelf at 350 Hertz. And it does this pre-saturation units, and then it compensates for that. So if you wanted cleaner bass, then that's a really cool way of doing it. So it means that you're not crunching up your bass as much. Similar sort of concept here, the pre and the post. So with the pre section, you can drive the top end in, or you can pull it out before it hits here. And with the post section, you can do the opposite. So it would be great if Waves had an option just here to link these 2 controls together, to link and unlink. I feel like that would be a really cool way to experiment and have a listen to what it's like to have full pre turned up and post down, and then the opposite, and just be able to hear that very quickly. There is a way to do that, and I'll show you how to do that later on. Out is output. I don't really look at the meter. For me, it's more about the sound, dry, wet control, pretty self-explanatory. Great for A/Bing. Now, out of all of these controls, as good as they are, the most important thing is the thing that you can't see, which is the fact that this plugin offers oversampling, and you can choose between the different types of oversampling. Oversampling is a way of increasing the sampling rate of the plugin, doing it all within the plugin so that you don't have to oversample your entire session. So in other words, you're not running your session at 88.2, etc. I'm actually running this at 44.1. So at 2 times oversampling within this plugin, it's boosting it up to 88.2. But of course, you can go all the way up to 8 times. Don't ask me to do the math on that, but it's pretty damn good. Basically, what it means is that you get a much cleaner and beautiful sounding distortion because it's not littered with aliasing artifacts, coloring the sound in a way that's not very musical. So that is awesome. And I reckon that's probably a big factor in why this plugin sounds so cool. So enough of that. Let's just try it out on a few other different sources and see what sort of results we can get. What do we got? Drums. So in the Lil Tube video, I had a quite crunchy sounding drum sound. Let's try and go for something like that. Backing off the sensitivity actually made it sound bigger. You've got to play around with these controls and find a nice sweet spot. Completely transformed. That's sounding pretty sweet. What else have we got? Shaker. So the shaker's got quite a lot of effects on it. What's it like in context? It's definitely got a more 3D quality about it. For a cleaner sound, I'm just going to copy this down the drums and get something a little bit less aggressive. Now that one I processed quite a bit in the last video. Play with this. Completely annihilate it. Cool. So if we wanted to know, does it sound better or worse depending on whether we're pushing in or pulling out some of the top end before or adding it back in? Here's an instance of Studio Rack. What I can do is I can go in and where do I get it? From here, copy, and we'll paste. There we go. All right. So now what we can do is we can build out a macro that gives us pre and post linked. So let's do that now. So I'll go add macro 1. That can go on macro 1 as well. But what we want is, we want that one flipped. So dead easy to do. How cool. There we go. So I've just bypassed the other one of that. Let's have a listen and see what the pre and post EQ does. Wow, okay. So I guess it depends on what you're going for. It's funny because it feels like with the post EQ turning up the shelf that it's actually, how do I describe it? It's a bit like it's a bit clearer, I would say. So when you're pushing in and pulling out the EQ on the post, I don't know, I kind of like that. That sounds just a little bit too harsh. So I think I like that. So that's one way that you can do that. Obviously, Studio Rack is free. So if you want to do experiments like that, it's good to get some closure. In the plugin world, you can't move both of those controls at the same time and the same amount. It kind of answered that question for that particular source. I like the pre-EQ pushing in. Let's try this Rhodes. Sounds pretty cool. What does it sound like in context? And what I'll do is I'll try it out on this delay. I feel like it's adding a lot more depth. Cool. All right, what about this voice thing? What is it like in context? I can't think of any options that give a sound that kind of same 3D quality as what BB Tubes is doing. Definitely a special plugin, and great that they've got oversampling. They've got all those different tonal options that you can play with. I think we're getting much closer to that analog vibe. This is definitely a step in the right direction. Little Tube's fine, but wow, this is definitely adding something else. So what I've got here is just a print of the Little Tube. You heard a bit of that in the last video. Let's have a listen. Go and grab it. It's great. I don't think you will find a better distortion that has that analog quality to it. Huge amount of different tonal ranges that you can explore. I would say go and get it. It's one of the best, if not the best, analog emulations that I've heard. Leave me a comment if you think you know of a better distortion plugin. This has a really nice musical quality to it that I think could lend itself to quite a few different things. I hope you enjoyed that. Remember to like and subscribe, and I shall see you in a future video. Thank you for watching, and happy mixing.